Good morning, everyone. It's a great privilege to be again having this opportunity to share my message today, which could sound a bit like a scandal. You don't hear very often to speak about loving yourself in the church. I personally never heard something like this. Pastor Gabriel, have you ever preached something like this or heard? No. No, these words, yeah. This is a little bit like an extension from my previous time when I was here in front of you, and just naturally come as a development of this sermon at that time. So I hope you're going to have a good time, and you're going to receive answers of some of the questions that you might have in your life, studying Bible, or just in your personal journey. And in the beginning, I would like you have some type of thinking, trying to answer a following question. If you accept that England is part of UK, Scotland, Wales, all these countries are part of the Western world extension to America, how many of you think, how many people do you have low self-esteem? Okay, what's going on? Yeah, but it doesn't work. Wait. None of them. Ooh, now my self-esteem will go down. Yeah. Okay, it's working. So, okay, let's make a guess. Do you have answer? Just give me as a percentages. 30%. Okay, you live in America. Okay. So 40%. 90%. Who says 90? 90 first time, 90 second time. How many? 100%. Okay. Here is the answer. No, sorry. I'm still studying. 85%. According to Dr. Joe Rubino, one of the researchers on self-esteem, he says that in American people, 85 of them are suffering with low self-esteem. So let's say what's low self-esteem? This is when you feel crap about yourself. When you talk about terrible things, that you are not good enough. Nothing what about you is good. You're a terrible person. You're a failure. You're a loser. This type of thinking that comes in your mind. Even as a Christian, sometimes it happens. And especially when you have to do a good speech like this, like me, and things doesn't go well. Such thoughts can come up in your mind. If you want, you can watch some of the videos Dr. Joe Rubino has. Maybe can help you to go deep on that. Now, I want to see this picture very well. What do you think is the message of that picture? It's written there maybe, but just a first glance. What is the message of that picture? Sorry?
Be hide who you are.
Okay. Yes. It's a very sad story. This is made of young people between maybe 14 and 18 years old. When you see yourself down, it's not surprising that you have such auto-portrait, self-portrait. You see the colors and everything is mixed. You don't have face. You're something different. You know yourself. Now, I was trying to find something if it says about we as Adventists or as a Christian, which can give a little bit answer if you have some low self-esteem, high self-esteem as Adventist. And I came to that in an article, which basically for me is a bit sad story, because it tells us that we, as a Seventh-day Adventist, like other religious people, interesting one, have a highly developed and often rigid superego. This is our morality, let's say. And with a splitting off or total denial of it or pleasure principle, when you deny something that is good to us. And there are many shoulds, oughts, and musts in SDA clients, often with failure to understand from where these structures come. And the author, B. Sadat, he encourages these clients to look at the compassionate side of God. This is not a very positive message for us as Adventists. But what is telling me that there are some very rigid structures in our belief, in our way, how you relate to ourselves. So at the end, this clinical psychologist recommends to look on the different side of God, the most compassionate one. And today I would like we try to see this side, but expressed in the terms of love. When someone is feeling very bad about himself, very often that is linked with very common feelings, emotions, like depression, shame, and guilt. Maybe guilt among the religious people is one of the highest. When you do something and think how God will think about you. So at that moment, all these shoulds, must, whatever is, what I have to do, what should be, being critical, toxic to ourselves, is appearing. Now, we come to a moment to ask ourselves, what is the idea for self-love, this compassion? Is the Bible has something to tell us about us? And I try to figure out for myself how many verses you can find of the Bible about that. And actually, we have a very good warning about such idea for self-love. It's so clear. Last days, people will be lovers of ourselves. Ooh, you're Adventist. You're living in the last days. Many people will be lovers of themselves. And the second verse, if you try to invert it, it shows that when you try to not love to your neighbors as putting them above, and you have a superior position, very easy you can develop a pride. And this is sin even in a Christian theology. However, this is not the only side of the story. Bible, and even in a comment, has the following idea. It's talking about to love your neighbors as yourself. Now, very often, maybe we try to emphasize the focus about the neighbors, but not about ourselves. And this is how I develop my talk today. I want to focus not so much on the first part, loving the neighbors, but loving us as yourself. Because it seems when we relate with love to ourselves, we're actually mirroring the way how we're going to love our neighbors. Sometimes, and even in my clinical practice, I need to show that how someone can love someone else to love themselves. So both of them are a little bit interchangeably in understanding. Let's have a little bit more biblical verses, if you know that we are sure about what you're talking about. So here in Ephesians 5:29-30, we have, after all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does the church, for we are a member of his body. Now, we see the opposite of love is hate. So if you relate to our body with love and you're feeding care, basically you're doing the good job. And even the Christ, who is the head of the body of church, is doing the same. So definitely we have a biblical examples that loving ourselves is something fundamental for our being and to exist. I'm not going to spend much time about all these theological matters because my focus is on another place. But one of the questions is actually how we can start loving ourselves. And I think the first thing and the most important is to know the definition of love. And this is very important. Usually applied for the others as the neighbors, but maybe don't apply to ourselves. And love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, interesting, self-seeking, selfishness, yeah. It is not easy angered, it keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, I emphasize that, always trusts, I emphasize that, always hopes, and always perseveres. And even there is love never fail. This is, by the way, one of the words that we have with me and my wife as when you got married, and you have this in our wedding picture, that love never fails. Yeah, thank you. So, we have a context how the idea for loving ourselves was developed by Jesus. It is in the context, what is the first commandment? Yeah, and the first commandment is to love God. And see, I emphasize here some words. Jesus sent unto him, you should love the Lord your God with all your heart and with your soul and with your mind. It's a very psychological matter. Mind, heart, soul, love. This is not only spiritual. There is something psychological going on. So, foundation of any love start with love to God. And you know, as a Christian, that not first we love God, but God loves us first. So our love to God is a response to his love. And we can involve in these loving matters with all entire being. So this is the context how the self-love happen. Apart from that, we have selfishness, become pride. If you put ourselves in such context of loving environment, now our mind is nourished with a different food. Okay, so now coming to the moment of the psychological implications of that based on the Bible. I call it biblical psychology. And I find such idea in the parable for Good Samaritan, as such model that can show us to self-love. So it's a bit long text, but I need to read it. Maybe someone can read it with very good diction. Pastor, can I invite you to read this from me, yeah?
You said good diction, right?
Yeah. You're faster than me, so...
Luke 10, 32-37. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave it to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." And Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor. So, definitely this parable gives answer of the following question: who is my neighbor? And the neighbor is not to the attacked man, but the Samaritan. It's a very interesting idea. I meditated on that. It's actually what I understood is, if we take literally the word to love your neighbor as yourself, somehow the neighbor who is the Samaritan was beloved by the attacked man. And you know why? Because it shows mercy to him. He loved the Samaritan as a response of the love that he received. And it's actually, this is what we as a Christian, we have it. Jesus died on the cross, showing his love for us, and in response from that, fulfill the commandment to love first God with your heart. So this is what you see as dynamic in that parable. Now, I want to make it more dramatically. You know, I like things to be visible. I have some people who are going to help me here just to do that. So I need all my team that I organized before to come here. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, so my team. You both of you will be over there. Lucas will be here. Okay? Stay here. Laka. All right. Now, you stay here, right? And you stay here. Now, here is our attacked man. So you can walk here with me and just stop here, yeah? And against you are coming two attackers. Yeah, it's talking. He's like, shh. Okay. Wait. This is not our pastor. Okay, now everyone shows his face, yeah. You are laughing, but reality is different. Now, seriously now. How do you feel in such condition?
Very low.
What do you have as emotions? Imagine this years in such situation.
I think I just want to die.
Okay. What do you think you need at that moment?
Someone to love me.
Okay. Anything else? I see you're stripped, you have wounds, you suffer. What else?
Someone to take care of my needs.
Yes. And what's your needs?
To clothe me, maybe to take me somewhere safe.
Thank you. Now, the story doesn't finish here. We have someone who has very high position. He's a priest. He's a spiritual leader. He's supposed to take care for the nation and to show what he's representative of God, what real God's love is. Let's see what he's going to do, yeah? Okay. Why didn't you stop to him?
Because he wasn't on my level, so I couldn't speak to him. I couldn't do anything. So yeah.
Okay. Even in the original, you even didn't watch on him. He was a little bit more compassion, maybe. Okay. How did you feel when now someone passed around you and didn't meet your needs?
Disappointed, helpless.
Okay. Now we have someone else that is coming around. Wow, just one more person passed around you.
I think I'm just lost.
Wow, it's very understandable, yeah? Now someone else passed. You be the host in the Okay. Wow, it was more what I expected. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Can you come just in front because now, Lucas, can you come? Can you explain what motivated you to do that?
That's how I would like to be treated if I was in his situation.
Okay, he was a good Samaritan, yeah, in the parable. How did you feel when the good Samaritan reacted to you?
I really felt lifted.
Now, this is your interpretation of the situation. How did you feel, like emotions?
It warmed my heart. It meant that I meant something for someone. So I wasn't really a nobody.
Yes. Is it different than what was before?
I think it was a big difference that someone really tried to get to my level and just raise me up from there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah? Now I could imagine if you can lift a man, how he's lifting his wife in the life. So he's definitely a strong man. I did the same with my wife when I got married. So apart from that, we could see a different relationship of some people who has to take care of someone who is vulnerable. He's scared. He said he's hopeless. He's maybe feel shame, guilt. He felt lost because there is no one who can help and meet his needs physically and emotionally. On the other hand, some people who are supposed to be his closest one actually alienated from him. They went far away. They dissociated. They left him alone to suffer with his pain. And in the face of the Good Samaritan, we saw someone who is said here, even in the parable, who took care of him and was relating to him with pity. This is different type of approach, meeting the needs of the attacked man. So why I'm using all this drama here in front of you? What do you think I want to tell you? Because this is the drama that we have in our soul when we have such feeling of down, low self-esteem, feeling rubbish, feeling I'm nothing, I'm no one. This is exactly the same dynamic in our soul. And I've seen the parable a model. Just pay attention, because you're going to jump in the next slide, that everyone saw him. The Levites saw him. The priest saw him, and the Samaritan saw him. Everyone saw him, and only one acted accordingly. The other saw and just, I don't want to have common with you. Now, I have to summarize this in some way. There is here psychological idea and there is a spiritual idea. But behind the hurt man, we have our vulnerable part. This is when you feel most maybe don't want to show to people our real face. And usually in such situation, when you have depression, you have guilt or have shame, this is when this part of us is screaming strongly. And you have one, I call it parental part. Actually, this is not my words. This is a technical term in applied psychology, specifically so-called schema therapy. When this part has a good sometimes intention, and usually is developed when you grow up as a children, and our parents or significant others, maybe with good intention, trying to relate to us, they try to protect us from something to not do, or wanted from us too much. One they demand, or take us criticize. And these children just absorb it like a sponge in with water. Accepting these messages become part of our internal mental system. It is the reason I call it parental, but their function is toxic. We have, in this case, in the parable, neglection and punishment. The person was neglected for his needs and was rejected. I don't want to be associated. Why? Because he is not in my level, as he rightly understood the idea. Comparably with this healthy part, the compassion one, went to that level, near, down to the person. So all these messages of punishment, you are not good enough, you cannot do it, they come usually from our childhood. They are like imprinted in our mind and try to somehow help the child to have a good maybe achievements, or maybe sometimes overprotection. Do you remember when you read in the beginning our message for Seventh-day Adventists? They have too much should, must, ought, or so on. This is also there, demanding from ourselves. Demands that you have as a children, demands that you put on ourselves. I have to be a good Christian. I'm going to make a scandalous message now. I must keep 10 commandments. This is not biblical. Bible says you shall. It's a completely different idea. So Bible is offering a moral stance how you should behave. In this has an option. You can respond to God or maybe not. When you demand something on ourselves, we eliminate the opportunity which God gives to us to respond voluntarily and with option. And sometimes we just put a shield on ourselves, don't want to show to people how you feel deeply in us with our vulnerability. And there is a proud part here. These guys here, that both of them passed around the attacked men, they've been very proud. They wouldn't like to associate with the vulnerable men. So we as a Christian maybe have to ask ourselves, how do you relate to yourself? Do you sometimes develop such attitude to protect actually who we are deep inside, or no? And there is one more person which we saw was the Good Samaritan, or this part of us that, if you remember from the previous talk that I have to you, that is mind of Christ. This new new idea that we internalize God's love in our mind, in our heart, and with this love you are giving to the others. But also this is applicable to give to yourself. We see it like a compassionate love. I use this term. So clearly we have this idea about a self, which is a constellation of parts. We, me, myself, we have vulnerable part, we have a sometimes toxic part, which we relate to ourselves when you have low self-esteem. It's attacking our vulnerability. And I'm going to show in the next slide some of the message that it bears. And you have also some shield trying to cover ourselves from our vulnerability. And you have one compassionate part that Bible is calling to develop, not only to the others, but to yourself. I'm going to demonstrate this with the following diagram. Vulnerable part. I don't know if you have here a pointer. Is this pointer? Okay. We have this vulnerable part. We have this neglecting part for our needs. You have sometimes you self-punish yourself with a lot of self-blame, inducing guilt on yourself, for example, or you feel ashamed. And this is how we try to develop some defensive mechanisms, being proud or having pride. But also, Bible is introducing the idea for God's love that you can give to yourself in a such way as the Good Samaritan related, do you see here, to our vulnerability part. So this parable, I use it to demonstrate psychologically how what's happened in the real life with someone is actually happening deeply inside. And the resolution of that conflict that's happened between the black and the red and the blue colors here on the diagram is actually the right is from this compassionate Samaritan part that we are called to develop. Now, see the messages that we have. Maybe someone can recognize himself, but based on what you have in the parable, we have this idea. Vulnerable part, these are the messages that you give to ourselves. I'm suffering, I'm feeling lonely and hurt. I feel shame, guilt, sadness, and fear, maybe depression. I'm in the need of help and love. Now, the other part that sometimes is turning up is trying to neglect such situation or even to reject. Self-esteem is rejection of ourselves, what you are. I don't care about you. You're not my level. I don't know. He never heard never seen my presentation, but he rightly recognized that idea. You're not my level. I defile myself with you. You don't exist. You are nothing but poor man. I'm repelled from you. This is self-rejection when you give to ourselves with toxic messages and you feel really down. Now, the other part is trying to criticize or punish ourselves. You are on my way. How could you suffer now? You don't need any help and love. You can do it by yourself, human. You are not good enough. You are a loser and sinner. You are disgust. This is what they did, the Levi and the priest. Otherwise, they would associate with this vulnerable poor man. Now, the defensive mechanism has these messages. I only associate with high-status people. This is what work only for me. I am focused on myself and my goals. No, my needs, what I need at that moment. And the compassionate part that was represented by Good Samaritan says completely different things. I see you and I'm connecting with you. I'm with you. I'll help you and I'll protect you. I'm taking care of you. I'm showing you love and mercy. Don't worry, nothing can hurt you. You are safe now. Do you remember what said the attacked man when I asked him, what do you need right now? And he said, I need a safe place. And this is actually what you saw. The Good Samaritan took the person and removed from this dangerous place. And he met the needs. And this is, we seen the parable put on a donkey and took in the inn. But it represents that we, when you suffer with our vulnerability, with our fears, all this deep anguish, when you give to ourselves such love to ourselves, internalizing God's love that was given to us on the cross and give it to us mentally, with imagery, with good self-talk, or even trying to do for ourselves, you move from this environment of toxicity. When you have a toxic self-talk, this is something that needs to be discontinued because it puts a pressure on our vulnerability, and you feel more fear, more ashamed, with more self-esteem. So, here are the steps based on this parable. The first, see your needs and condition. The others saw, but they didn't see. Yeah? They just saw something on the surface. To see someone is really to go and recognize it. Be mindful about what is going on. So the same is related to us. See your needs. See what emotionally you have. I ask two questions the attacked man. What do you feel? What do you need? This is the first two questions that you can ask yourself to start seeing the things. Okay. Yeah. The second is go close to your hurt and pain. When you suffer from something, very often we try to avoid it, to run away from that. The same way how the priest and Levi, they run away. They didn't want to associate with this pain that is there. The more you dissociate from yourself, from your pain, the more pain is higher and deeper. And you don't differ from the robbers. The Levi and the priest, in the way how they related to the attacked man, they're in the same as the robbers. The robbers did something externally to him, and you can think for the Levi and the priest, or this punitive, toxic part, that you do something to yourself on top what already was done on you. The next step is to relate with mercy. This is the idea for self-compassion. It's maybe a separate topic, but this is the love that we see with the pity. And this comes with a good self-talk, a good comfort that we can give to ourselves. With Bible, with biblical verses, with reminding ourselves what Jesus did on the cross, or even with some brother who really not gonna abuse with your vulnerability. The next step is to relieve, your psychological wounds, kind words. Sometimes you need to hear, I'm with you, I understand you, I feel your pain. Not to argue, brother. The pastor said earlier about on the funeral. We don't need to have a theological debate. What is true? Sometimes you need just a good relationship at that moment to feel someone understood and that he's seen, acknowledged with his pain. And the next step that is very important is to change direction in our life. And this happened with a good idea which Lucas presented. Remove yourself from the toxic place in your soul, on all this conflict that happened in your mind. But sometimes require what real toxicity that you have with some people. And provide a safe place where you can grow and thrive. If you create in your soul environment to give a strength to your strengths, you can thrive and grow. Bible has a very good example. It is said that we change looking in the image of the Spirit. I cannot say exactly the idea in. Sorry? Yes, but there is, I think, was in Corinthians. Paul is speaking about us from the Spirit of God. There is such idea. So definitely we are moving from strength to strength. God give us strength, and you're moving forward to thrive and grow. And the last is continual self-care by repeating the process. Remember the parable how finished. I'll give you money now, and when I come back, I'll pay you the rest. This is the idea about continuation. Repeat that process, steps 1 to 7. See, go, close, have mercy, relief, change, provide, and continue self-care. Now, I want all together with me, you read the story of the parable, little bit made it in our contemporary environment, but with different eyes. And I invite you to make it this in a choir, all together with me. Ready? Started? I want to hear good sound. Yeah? Toxic people. They strip me with words like a naked, beat me verbally and physically, and went away leaving me like half dead with low self-esteem and shame. My intellectual parental part of me was coming in the same life role, and when you saw my vulnerability, passed by the other side and neglected my not wanting to be associated with my needs. So too, the punitive part of me, when came to the darkness valley and saw me, because disgusted of me, rejected me, and punishes me for needing love, care, and safety, and pass on the other side. Not be able to bear the pain, I decided how ambiguous and goal-oriented, self-centered person, attracting attention and shielding my needs of love or protection. But the compassion Christ part of me came where I am, and when it saw me, took pity on me, it went to me and bandaged my wounds, pouring a lot of tender of words and said, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Then it removed me from that place of horror and brought me to a safe place and continued to take care of me. The next day, he took out money and gave it to a helper and said, look after him. I'll reimburse you for any extra expenses you may have and to me. I'll not leave you comfortless. Surely, I meet you always to the very end of the age. Amen. Do you understand what you did right now? You changed the story of your inner conflict. The story of feeling low, with low self-esteem, shame, and related differently. We apply the story of the parable for Good Samaritans to ourselves. We become this neighbor. Because if you give love to yourself, our vulnerability will respond with love. This is the law of love. Love leads to love. Love produces love. Giving love to yourself, our vulnerability will respond with love. And even I'm going a bit further. Yeah. This is just summary of what you just said. When you give love, you receive love. Is when we learn this experience, from this experience, to relate to ourselves with love, self-love, with the biblical self-love, we starting loving our neighbors in proper way. This says the Bible, to love your neighbors as yourself. Yeah? You relate with love and you relate to the other. Relating to yourself with love leads to relation to the others. Even more, I put here, you can love our enemies. Is it biblical? In our parts, in our soul, there are some enemies. That's it. You call it sin. You call it some toxic messages, Levites and priests, whatever how wants to call it. But if you learn to love yourself, connect with your vulnerability, because your love is connection, then it leads to response. You see even the enemies in a different light. When you reconcile with yourself, you reconcile with the others. This is the first thing we do. We believe in Christ and become reconciled with Him. There isn't any conflict more. And if you're in yourself, this reconciliation happens, and it leads to love, to self-love, then your neighbors or your enemies, they are seen in a different light. So today I just wanted to stress and put a little bit attention about how you can love ourselves and even unlimited. Because this is how we thrive and you grow as a Christian. And how you learn to be what God's purpose for us is. To fulfill His will. To love Him and to love our neighbors. Thank you very much.